Question 1. Graham is researching the effects a high-protein diet has on the glucose level of adults aged 25 to 35. He decides to collect blood samples from 50 females and 50 males. State the sampling technique Graham has used. Okay, so out of all of our sampling techniques, this sounds like it will either be quota or stratified. Since we don't know the proportions of the original population, we don't know whether this is a stratified sample, so we're going to go with quota. So Graham has simply said how many females and how many males he wants. He'll keep on going until he fills this quota of different genders. All right, part B, to give 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of this sampling technique. Okay, the good thing about quota sampling is that it's going to be cheap, so it's going to be inexpensive. Also, the sample size, there's not a lot of work that needs to be done to determine the sample size. You just arbitrarily pick the numbers that suit you. Okay, along with being cheap, a quota sample is actually quite fast to perform. Okay, and the disadvantages, firstly, it's not a random sample, and secondly, it's not necessarily going to be representative. Just picking 50 males and 50 females may not represent the proportions that exist in the population. Graham then decides to select the 50 male blood samples from an alphabetical list of 300 names of males aged 25 to 35, each of whom has agreed to supply a sample if asked. Explain how Graham could use a calculator or a random number generator to take a simple random sample from the males aged 25 to 35. Okay, so simple random sampling, let's get to it. All right, so first we should go ahead and, well, Graham should go ahead and number the list of males from 1 to 300. Okay, and then we can use the calculator or random number generator suggested in the question to select 50 unique numbers. I mentioned unique as in if a number is repeated, if a number comes up a second time, we'd have to ignore it and try again for a new number. Okay, and then lastly, the males corresponding to the numbers will form the sample. And that's how we're going to pick a simple random sample for the 50 male blood samples that Graham wants to collect. Okay, so Graham has an equivalent list of 300 females. Explain how Graham could take a systematic sample of blood from females aged 25 to 35. Okay, so assuming that Graham still wants his sample of 50. Okay, so firstly we're going to calculate the interval size needed. We can do that by taking the population size, in this case is 300, divided by the sample size, in this case is 50, and that leaves us with an interval size of 6. So, with those 6, what do I do? So we're going to go ahead and number the list of females from 1 to 300. Okay, so using a calculator or a random number generator, we'll go ahead and select a starting point number, which has to be between 1 and 6. So that's going to be in between 1 and the interval size. Okay, then we'll select every 6th name after the starting point to generate the 50 names, and these 50 females will form the sample. And the females corresponding to the numbers will form the sample. Laying out step by step how this sampling technique is performed will be worth all of your marks.